How can I inform an egoistic, stick-twirling student that he isn't as good as he thinks he is? Well, get yourself a lightsaber. Hey guys, welcome to a special 50,000 subscriber episode of Art of Drumming HQ. Today, I'll be answering all your questions as well as giving away goodies, so stay tuned and find out if you win something. Have you ever had any unpleasant performance experiences? I've actually had plenty of them. My first one, which happened to be my first ever performance, I had only played drums for a year, and I was 16 at that time. There was a carnival in my school and I was going to perform in this band with a bunch of classmates. One of the songs that we played was a little bit out of my league at that time. That song was Simple Plan's Addicted. I had to play a lot of the parts simplified so that I could manage it, and even so, because it was my first performance, I was feeling very stressed and under a lot of pressure. So during performance day, what made things worse, when I was performing, somebody from the crowd threw an empty drink can at me. At that point in time, I couldn't react because I was still focused on playing. To this day, I will never forget that unpleasant experience. True, it might have been a bit traumatic and stressful for a first-time performance experience. I mustn't fail to mention that I was from an all-boys school, and in an all-boys school, boys just tend to be very rowdy. They tend to be bullies. So I don't hold any grudges against those people who did it. Today, looking back at it, made me think it was a really positive experience because despite having a can thrown at me, I still loved to play drums. How and when did you start playing? I started playing when I was 15 years old. One fine day after school, I was at a friend's place and he introduced me to the band X Japan. Before that, I didn't even think that drumming could be this powerful or this impactful. That was when I knew I had to play the drums. How to get a girlfriend? Look, I'm no dating expert. After practicing drums or limb independence for a long time, do your limbs actually become more independent or do you just get used to the exercise beat? Yes, your limbs do get more independent in the way that whatever your mind imagines you to play, you're able to play it without affecting your other limbs. But that definitely takes a while because you have 4 limbs and you have infinite combinations of coordination patterns. So the best way to go about it is just to choose a limb, choose an ostinato, and work on the freedom of that particular limb. In this example, the particular limb being my right leg. Would you prefer to be a jack of many trades or master of one? I prefer to be a jack of many trades with a particular emphasis on one of them. Take for example, I'm invested a lot in drumming, making videos, teaching, selling PDFs and drum scores online, marketing and branding, how to constantly reach wider audiences, mindset work, business acumen, because I've really learned that it's not about your technical ability. For example, you can be the best drummer in the world, but if you don't know how to present yourself, if you don't know how to market yourself, you're not going to reach audiences, you're not going to be able to survive or thrive well in your industry. That's why I don't actually like to be a master of one. But you also need to balance it out by realizing with self-awareness what is the one thing that you can be the best at. And for me, it's truly teaching. So all the other skills, all the other traits that I'm learning about is mainly to enhance my main skill and trait, which is teaching. All of those traits will enable me to be an even more highly effective teacher, and then I can spread all the positives to people like you. How do you phrase over the bar and keep track of where you are? It really helps to practice odd groupings such as 3s, 5s, 7s, and whatever combinations you can come up with, because odd groupings naturally take a longer time to resolve. For example, if you're playing a pattern in 5, in 4/4, you will take 5 bars for the pattern to resolve back to the 1. You are practicing the overlap of 5 total bars. What sort of goals did you set for yourself in the initial stages when you first set up your social media? When I first set up my YouTube channel, Art of Drumming HQ, I already knew that I loved teaching. I saw YouTube as a great opportunity to allow me to teach even more people without having to see them face to face. What tips would you give someone starting out with content creation? If you want to be a content creator, you must decide first on what scale does your seriousness versus fun level lie. So let's say this side you have pure fun, and this side it's 1000% seriousness. You want to make money, you want it to go somewhere. Let's say you decide you want this to be more like a hobby, you want it to be 2 or 3. Then when you make your content, You're allowed to make whatever you want without caring whether it will succeed or how well you present it. Like, none of that matters. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it to learn something, to enjoy the process of doing it. But if you decide to get really serious and you want to use social media to increase the size of your personal brand, to give you more opportunities, financial or otherwise, then you have to look at your content a little bit differently. You have to study what makes content go viral. You have to learn about storytelling. You have to learn about how to communicate and how to present your message across. So once you've made that distinction for yourself, where on the fun or seriousness curve that you lie, you'll be way better informed about what kind of content that you should try to make and how you go about doing it. For me personally, most of the time I'm at a 10 in terms of seriousness, but sometimes if I get too stressed or burnt out, or if I don't feel like doing it, I will relax and explore the absolutely fun side where I just create what I want to create and not give a shit about what anyone thinks. Was your left foot especially struggling with double bass as well when you started? Yep. 101% it was. This is my drumming journal from 4 years ago. All these numbers are records of my double bass practices. 96 sessions, meandering between 140 to 160 beats per minute. And it was largely because of my left foot. So frustrating. What you can do is make sure that you practice your left foot 2 times more than your right foot. Do it consistently and patiently for 1 to 2 to 3 years. And I promise you, you will see results. I've been playing double bass for 10 years and I still think that my left foot is weaker than my right. What was the first metal song you really wanted to play when you're still a beginner? When I was a beginner, I've never listened to metal in my life. It was much later on that I discovered Animals as Leaders because I watched Matt Gaska play. And so the first metal song that I learned was Cascade. Do you have stage fright? If so, how do you deal with it? Yes. And at different parts of my career. Let me share with you this particular incident. I was called to sub for a band and it was a last minute arrangement. I had to sight read a bunch of songs that I've never heard or played before in my life. But I really wanted to help my friend out, so I accepted it anyway. When I got on stage and I started playing the second song and I got lost halfway through the song, I forgot to take a repeat. The rest of the band was still in the verse and I was already in the chorus. My mind raced as I frantically looked back and tried to guess which bar I was at. But I never really got back on the same page as the band, and so I played the rest of the song very reactively, and the ending was scrappy at best. At that point in time, my mind sort of blanked out, and for the rest of the set, I didn't even know what I was doing, and letting 1,000 negative thoughts invade my head. After that gig, I felt so apologetic that I went to apologize to the bass player, and I didn't dare to speak to the other performers at all. To my surprise, the bass player told me this: "Wow, your groove damn shook, man, just now." And then I was like, oh, okay. Most of it was probably in my head. Sure, I got lost a few times, but I already had the skills to keep a solid groove down, and I was playing in time after all. So this gig that had me experience full on-stage fright also taught me that the only people thinking about my problems was me. Other people are mostly concerned with themselves and their own problems. This knowledge helped me to manage my stage fright the next few times that it happened. Another key thing here is that I didn't want the same incident to happen. So the only way to do that was not to try to get rid of my stage fright, but to be able to play along with my stage fright. And how I did this whenever I was preparing for a particularly important performance is I made sure that I could play my songs harder than they were. For example, I could be playing a song that was 135 beats per minute. I would practice to be able to play that at around 145 beats per minute, 10 BPM extra. Then I would practice that same song with inadequate volume in my in-ears, making it a lot harder for me to keep in time. Some other things I did was make my setup less ideal. For example, sitting way too high or sitting way too low. All these things ensured that when I got on stage and if I got nervous, if I felt the pressure building and things became harder, I could still perform the songs because I was already used to playing them at worse and pressurizing conditions. What are the main genres every drummer should work to be adept in? I think there are no main genres. There are plenty of genres that one should definitely be open-minded and try to listen and experiment as much as possible so that you know the world of possibilities. And then you simply just pick the ones that you are most excited to learn or develop. What have been your breakthrough moments as a drummer? There's a song by Tommy Igoe, it's called Endure, and I remember that song actually took me 7 years to be able to play. That song is actually what made me understand metric modulation on the basic level. On top of that, there's also a mega drum solo where you're supposed to weave in and out of all the 3-time signatures, and I got severely stuck and frustrated, and I couldn't understand how to play most of the sections in time, and I feel like I was just winging it, and so I actually gave up. But I eventually went back to it 6 years later, and with 1 more year of practice, I finally broke through and was able to do a drum cover of it. I consider that one of my greatest breakthroughs in drumming, which made me realize the whole idea of breakthroughs is you must be stuck in the first place. You actually feel like giving up, or you actually give up. That's the point where a breakthrough opportunity arises. So the next time you feel stuck, that's your breakthrough opportunity looking at you in the face. What is your least favorite genre? I don't dislike any genre, but if I had to pick one, it would be straight up death metal. That's my answer because I don't find myself listening to any death metal songs. Are there moments that made you feel that you want to quit drumming or content creation? Yes, I did quit drumming for 1.5 years. This was when I was studying in Berklee College of Music, and I actually dropped out because I realized that I really wasn't having any fun and I was so stressed out studying at Berklee. On the other hand, I tried to become a professional gamer playing StarCraft 2, and that's where the 1.5 years went. I failed that too, decided to quit, came back to playing drums and music. I also remembered the first time I truly burnt out as a YouTuber. It was the same year I actually decided that I wanted to become a full-time YouTuber, and I sort of cranked up the number of hours that I dedicated every single week, but I was noticing the more work I put in, the less results I was getting. So that particular year, I was forced to give up because I was so tired and I felt sick, and I just lost all motivation and drive and all the fun that went with making YouTube videos. And I didn't touch content creation for the next 2 months. But just like when I quit drums, I eventually came back. I quit making YouTube videos and I eventually came back. Both of those served as a very strong reminder to me that even when things get too overwhelming and I'm forced to quit, I know that I will still eventually come back once I've recovered, once I've regained my footing, because inherently deep inside, I'm super passionate about these things. How much time it took to make money playing the drums? 4 years. At that point in time, I was a student of LaSalle Music College, and one of my classmates introduced me to my first teaching gig at a neighborhood music school. Those first 2 months, I had a grand total of 2 students. My first paycheck was $120. What motivates you? What keeps you going in things you're pursuing? I have 2 main reasons that help me. One is cliche, one is not cliche. The cliche answer has everything to do with this little guy here. Guys, meet Hero. He's a rescue dog. And what keeps me going is because I have a dream that will be too big to accomplish in my life. Hero here used to be an ex-breeding dog, and when he turned 6, he was thrown out. When dogs hit the age of 6, it's too risky to let them continue breeding. Therefore, many of these dogs are either abandoned or put to sleep. The conditions for these dog breeding farms are quite borderline atrocious. So when we rescued Hero, he was in really bad health. He was carrying a fatal disease known as heartworm, and if he wasn't treated in a month or 2, he could have died. I know that's just one of the many reasons animals like him have to suffer, be abused and ill-treated. Whenever I see such cruelty, it hurts me so much more than anything else. So my dream is to build the largest dog shelter in the world and save as many of these abandoned dogs, and to gradually give away everything that I earn to similar causes. You can imagine the kind of funds that I'm going to need for that. How am I going to earn that much or secure that amount of money? I have no clue. So whatever I do today is just chipping away gradually at this big dream of mine. And because this dream is so big that every setback I get, it doesn't amount to as much as what I want to put into this. And that really helps to keep me going. The other thing that keeps me going is quite the opposite. Fundamentally, nobody really cares about what I do. Whatever I choose to do, if I succeed, people are going to look at it, but quickly look back at themselves and whether they are succeeding. If I fail, people are going to look at it, but quickly look back at their own failures, because inherently, everyone cares more about themselves than they care about other people. So that means whatever I do doesn't really matter, right? Everything becomes neutral in my eyes. And if everything is neutral, whatever emotions I'm feeling at those points, they are not going to last. I will be able to move on. And that's also what keeps me going. What should you practice every week and how much? What does your full practice routine look like for a week? You should practice based on the macro goals that you set for yourself and also what excites you. I'll tell you about my current practice routine and give you the reasons for practicing those things. I still practice a lot of double bass pedal because inherently, I just really love playing the double bass, and because I get better at playing double bass, I'm able to teach it and share about it more effectively. I get more and more people asking me for help, and also more and more people sharing their success stories. That gives me even more motivation to keep practicing my double kicks so that I can help even more people more effectively. On top of that, I've been practicing a lot of timing and click exercises and trying those exercises on various students. My macro goal here is to make the person who thinks they cannot keep time or think they have really bad time eventually able to become a groove machine. But I also like the fact that if I keep working on my time, whatever I play is gonna get cleaner and cleaner. Some of my weekly practice time is also dedicated to stick tricks, learning how to spin my sticks faster or toss them in ways that I can't. That's basically all I'm practicing. What instruments can you play other than the drums? Will you be planning on picking up a new instrument? Drums was actually the last instrument I picked up. Trombone was the first because of secondary school, piano, guitar, bass, and finally drums. There's no plans on picking up a new instrument. What's the difference between a good drummer and an exceptional drummer? It really depends on what do you value. For me, I value a drummer who has a good time feel. I also value showmanship quite a bit, and I'm looking for that wow factor. When I watch them, I would go, whoa, I didn't think to do that. And lastly, they must be a good human being, which flows directly into the next question. Who is your favorite drummer and who do you think is the best drummer? My favorite drummer is Anika Nils. Some years ago, I actually DM'd all my drumming heroes to ask them questions. The only person that got back to me was Anika Nils. That made me feel extra special. Like she actually gave a damn. And when I finally got to meet her in person at a masterclass, she actually smiled at me so warmly, and the first words that came out of her mouth were, I love your videos. She basically carries all the values that I'm interested in possessing myself and that I admire about others. That's why I think she's the best drummer. What major developments in your playing have helped you level up the most over time? The first is realizing that I'm not better than anybody, but at the same time realizing that I'm not worse than anybody. This simple idea opened me up to being myself, and it also opens me up to learning from anybody. It doesn't matter if they are even drummers. Sometimes, because people are not drummers, they could be having a totally unique perspective on the craft. I also learn a lot from my students. Every student that comes my way, they can have unique struggles that I have not thought about. My own journey was a certain way such that I didn't encounter any of those problems, but as a teacher, I need to be aware of them. If I didn't have that problem, doesn't mean somebody else won't have that problem. And if I didn't have that problem, I wouldn't know that that problem exists. That was also how I found my unique way to finally be able to hit my double bass pedal goals. That came from thinking that I'm not worse than any other drummer. I tried learning from the professionals and the people that were better than me, but their methods didn't really work for me. Because the problems that they went through are not the same problems that I went through. And I had to diagnose this for myself, which then resulted in this major development of being able to play double bass. Another major development is when I decided that I did not want to learn any more chops. I did not want to learn another right left kick, kick, right left left, left right kick. I understand if you're scrolling through Instagram that you're going to see a lot of people chopping, and then you go, oh, what pattern was that? It makes you feel like your chops are inadequate, and it makes you feel like you want to learn it. I'm human. I do get that too. But because I made a firm decision, every time I felt that way while scrolling Instagram, I would tell myself that, nope, I'm not going to learn that chop. What am I going to do instead is go to the practice room, pick a chop that I already have, and work on getting it faster and figure out a new way to play it, like a subdivision I haven't tried. That makes me even more confident in my playing, and it makes my strengths even stronger. It also maintains my own unique sound. Rather than I go learn this chop which I am not going to be good at because I'm going to start from scratch, and then it takes a longer time to be able to do it, and I'm not happy and my strengths don't become stronger. You get the idea. If you could rewrite your drumming history differently, how would it be? I have this feeling that if I actually went back and changed some things that I do, my path would be very different. I don't think I would have the same goals now. I would certainly not have the same experiences, and the lessons I learned would have been different. So if given a real choice, I don't think I would change anything about my drumming history or my history at all. How can I inform an egoistic, stick-twirling student that he isn't as good as he thinks he is? Well, get yourself a lightsaber. Of course I'm joking, I'm not that kind of teacher. You can tell the student this particular example. When you look for a potential date and you're scrolling through profile after profile on whatever dating app, you see a profile that catches your eye, you hook up and set up your first date. The person shows up and you are disappointed because you realize that the pictures in the profile were largely photoshopped, such that what you see in reality isn't what you get online.
Disappointment.
And that's how I like to think about stick tricks. Stick tricks is like the makeup. It looks very good. It's very eye-catching. And sure, that's how you get people to say that, wow, that's really cool, man. He looks like he knows what he's doing. But upon closer inspection, they realize that, okay, the groove isn't that solid. The fill-ins aren't that musical. That's when any listener or observer will start to tune out and just walk away. Because the technical ability does not exist. The presentation could be a 10 out of 10, but the technical ability is like a 3 out of 10. Others who don't necessarily understand the topic of drumming could start seeing that as a 10, but the more they observe, the more they're going to look at it as a 3 without all its fancy makeup on. I myself actually practice a lot of stick tricks and I love them. If your technical ability is a 10, but you cannot present yourself, you cannot sell yourself, you cannot hook people and get their attention, you would be limiting the full potential of your reach. Polyphia has more followers than Pliny, Animals as Leaders, and Periphery combined. Because of the way they present themselves, anybody who doesn't know how to play the guitar can appreciate their music more easily. It's the same with El Estapario. He has the best stick tricks. His showmanship is truly through the roof. And of course, these guys have insane technical ability that goes perfectly hand in hand with their showmanship. And that's how I like to look at any art form. Time for some giveaways. I'm giving away a practice plus patience equals progress tee, some hoodies, and a one-on-one 30-minute online session. I'm going to pick 3 names at random. The 3 winners chosen at random: Isqua LOL, Cable, and Jared O. Congratulations to all 3 winners. You actually get to choose either the tee or the hoodie, and on top of that, you'll get the 30-minute session with me. I will reach out to you, but in case something goes wrong, please reach out to me too. Thank you all for submitting these lovely questions. I enjoyed myself tremendously answering them. Till next time, don't stop dreaming and don't stop drumming.